So that kind of provides us liquidity, but it also stabilizes the fund a little bit more as well. So that's all I really have to say about it.
Any questions on the Vanguard question update? Going once, going twice. Okay, we will move to item number 3.3, the proposed budget. Here's what I would like to do. We have been looking at this thing since December, one way or another. There was a presentation yesterday that Bill and the staff did a fine job putting out, and pretty much and it's on, if you want to look at joint now, if you can get on it, it's on there now. But instead of having Bill go through all of this, I would like to have Bill take about 3 minutes to just briefly go over the highlights, and then we'll get into questions, and then I would like to get this moved to the governing board, because I'm sure that Friday the governing board will be moving this to the general meeting on the 28th. So this is could be a chance to weigh in on the budget, and it's appropriate that the Budget and Finance Committee weigh in on it. I would like to have a second to this and a motion before we end up. Somebody's still on, not muted. Would you please mute? Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Young. On these highlights, did you want me to go through all of the operating revenue, our expenditures along those lines, and then I'll drop down into capital?
No, what I'd like you to do is to simply review the any rate increase for golf, bowling, and dues.
Okay.
And that's what we need to do on the operating side, unless somebody has questions later.
Okay. Back up one slide, Katie.
Oh, no.
No. It's a graph. No, keep going.
Print out.
I'm sorry.
Is it within one of the subdivisions? The highlights.
Right there. Okay. Let me start here by saying, as we currently sit, we are sitting at a $960 rate when it comes to our membership dues. We are proposing a little over 3% as far as an increase. I truly understand the economy as to where we are now with the situation with the unemployment rate nationwide and how we sit. And I know this is a trigger point for the governing board to address, and we'll deal with that at the upcoming work study. But as we sit today with the general manager's report, we are proposing a little over a 3% increase in our membership dues, which totals about $17 annually. And so moving on, if we could. Again, we talked that's about $1.40 a month as far as an increase goes, or 5% a day. And I think the key phenomenon here is, anytime we kind of have a lag in fees, or we opt out of any kind of fee increase, you're typically going to be staring at a double-digit increase the following year. And where we sit here today with our futures and what we're looking at down the road when it comes to home sales, when it comes to golf revenue, I mean, those are the other two large drivers of our association, and those are variables. When it comes to the financial crisis and the virus crisis that we're facing, we don't know what's ahead of us really when it comes to the fall, and that is golf season. That's where we make some hay, and any kind of decline in golf play and whatnot is going to have a large effect on our revenue, as are home sales. And we are still above the flat line, and we still have a pulse when it comes to selling homes. But obviously they are dropped this month, but we're still in pretty good shape, and that too will recover. But when, I can't tell you. So those two revenue generating factors, be it golf and home sales, are variable. Membership is pretty solid, and so that's hence the recommendation for us to continue with the fee increase that we're proposing this year.
Okay,
When it comes
thank you.
to golf fees, the golf committee, chaired by Mr. Hurley, took a hard look at this schedule, and what we're staring at here are all the highlighted amount of the fee increases and what the rates will be based on what type of card or discount card you have, whether you're a guest, public play, or resident, and as well as our seasonal and annual passes that we offer. This is the first year in 3 years, I think, that these fees have been adjusted. And so the next slide basically shows you getting away from what the total fee is. This slide here shows you the incremental increase that we're proposing as far as the rate changes for the upcoming fiscal year. By and large, you see, pretty moderate increases, highlighted, I think, by a little bit of a $225 increase on the unlimited annual card pass, and the other ones, range anywhere from $1 up to $2 in any kind of particular category. Bowling fees have gone up a little bit, and that is to help offset Barry's proposed scoring system. We are having some difficulty with that scenario there. There's a lot of breakdown. So that is an aged piece of equipment. So new devices, new software, new computer system in that scenario there would really go to help offset the cost of those improvements as well at the sports pavilion.
Okay, thank you. Questions of anybody on the committee about just this topic? Okay, any questions from anybody in the audience on this topic?
Jim, this is Jerry Connor. I have a question for Bill. Recognizing the uncertainty of the future about golf, and recognizing as well that we cannot use reserve funds to pay operational costs, are we sufficiently raising the membership fee to protect us against a possible significant drop in golf revenue such that we can weather it for the year?
Those variables are built into it, Jerry. That question has been posed behind closed doors, as I think Bill was alluding to the rock-solid nature of membership. But just to clarify, we've had this discussion in B&F before, so the excess of income is oftentimes a misnomer because from a reserve standpoint, that's a crucial infusion of our reserve funds, the excess. About $1.5 million passed, and when you divide that by 30,000 members approximately, you get about a $50 rate per member of repair and replacement. That's approximately 10% of your dues, which since the national averages, most of the time that's in the mid-teens to as much as 20% in most HOAs. Given that, the 3.5% when we were initiating this budget seemed fair. I think we now have seen that golf has new criteria that cause some impact into our rounds played. That could be 10-minute intervals. That could be the outside play has had some restrictions. Just got from Barry, it isn't a huge revenue, but over at Sports Pavilion, very much spacing between lanes and the inceptions will probably impact lineage. You're exactly saying what we proposed the capital reductions for is that we didn't really want to hit the operating expense. If golf were to trip up, if we're seeing some decline in the bowling revenues, or then or even APF sales, as Bill alluded to earlier, our initial reaction wasn't necessarily to react with more fees from everybody, but to strike down the delayable projects. And so a $1.8 million is identified later in this schedule as what we call potential delay. Half of those dollars are in new. So they aren't just pushing the can down, kicking the can down the road. They are not in our reserve study, so it would have the effect of offsetting any kind of impact within the revenue stream. And that's the angle we're taking at this time. But we wanted that 3.5 to cover our base cost. It's going up in the minimum wage, it's going up in insurance, and we believe that that's a rock solid investment that we really feel like hopefully we'll get some traction. I know it comes at an opportune time with closures and things, but that's our opinion.
Answer your question, Jerry?
Yes, it does, Jim. Pete, thank you very much. That was enormously helpful. I just want to make an observation as well, Jim, if I may. I noticed the metal shop renovation addition is now listed at $410,000. Is that in addition to the $250,000 that the board already authorized?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But let's just talk about the three income right now, and then we'll get on to the other. Any other questions on the what we just talked about from anybody? Did you have
Jim,
any case? I'm sorry, who is this?
Jim, it's Lisa Vines. I have a question.
Good, Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, regarding golf, the only question that I have is, do the employees that are not Sun City West residents, do they pay to play?
Lisa, this is Bill. Yes, there are employee golf rates. I believe they've been increased to, I believe, $12 per round. And if they play during twilight, I believe, or weekends, there is no charge. And I think on an average, that's bringing in about $35,000 annually.
Super. Thanks, Bill.
Any other questions on this before we move on? Okay. Now there's lots of 100,000 over, and they're all on the list. We've gone over them about 6 times. So instead of having the staff go over each one of them, and my opinion is, unless I get overruled, which I can happen real easily, I'm going to take it by question. If anybody has any questions that they would like on this. First of all, Bill, what is your proposed budget total?
On the slide in front of you, there's one item that was changed since we had our last BNF meeting. The last time the committee met, a motion was made to forward this over to the governing board, but failed to delineate a capital budgeted proposed total amount. And I believe that was in the $6.2 million range. We did withdraw one particular project based on Carl's recommendation, and that was the new office complex for Eduardo over here on the R.H. Johnson campus. Due to the fact that there were some issues that we developed, and we were really uncertain as to pinpoint the exact lineage of where the sewer line is as far as connecting another building to this complex. And I didn't want to get into a situation where we threw you a number and then are coming back and asking for more. I think we have one of those little bad apples in our basket now, and I didn't want another one. So that project was removed, and so now we are looking at a $5,991,271 proposed total. That is on your screen, and we can advance this a few slides to get you down to the line item out total for us to take a look at, and all projects above $5,000 are listed.
Okay. Questions on any item on that list? From the committee first.
So this is John Nicholas. Okay, also taken off the list was $10,000 for parking over at the wood shop. And also there was $56,780 taken off the golf R&R since our last meeting. Could you go over those items?
You are correct on that. This is Carl Wilhelm. After reviewing the documents for Foresight, I recognize that they inadvertently included it into our maximum price for the Coons project, so we were able to eliminate that from the budget.
Okay.
To the second point, very good news on two fronts. This was brought up as a positive at yesterday's meeting that Carl has employed some alternative remediations of some areas. One of those was the Trail Ridge Pro Shop, and we had taken a $2,000, somewhere in that range, repair on it, and it proved to be, it hit all the marks for getting it done, and so we removed that $30,000 from the budget. Another good news was that the public address systems at 4 of our courses, we had $7,000 inserted for each of those. We're finding now that those PA systems are not meeting the capital requirements. They're about $3,000 to $4,000, and we removed them for that reason.
Any other questions from the committee?
Jim?
Yes.
This is Harry Stanabine.
Who?
Harry?
Oh, go ahead, Harry.
One thing I've noticed in following the Republic is that this last month they bring out the sales in our zip code, and there's about a 1/3 decline in house sales right now from this year to last year. So I think that's one thing that's got to be considered is the house sales are going down now, and they're down by about 1/3. And so I think we need to just keep that in mind to keep our costs down as much as possible, because that could have a major effect going forward. Thank you.
Yes, the staff has proposed, I think it's a 1.7 million or something reduction in items. If the money doesn't come in, they are prepared to not continue with those. So the budget could be as low as about 4.2 or 3, I think.
Okay.
Correct. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes, sir, that is correct. On the slide on the screen in front of you shows that 1.7, the line item total for those, and those are what we are classifying as deferrable.
Yeah.
Pete mentioned earlier that there are several new projects there that would obviously help, and they'd probably be the top of the list as far as deferring, and then the other R&Rs as well. So as we keep an eye on the economy, we keep an eye on our revenue streams, those types of decisions we made down the road, but those are our target areas.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
Jim, I had a question. I noticed there are several
Who is this?
vehicles in trucks or vans. Are those net of trade-ins that we expect to get?
They are. We actually, in many ways, keep one of the reasons we go with a vendor, especially in the Gulf maintenance area of continuity, is that they'll retain the parts, salvage the parts, scavenge the parts, and we save hundreds of thousands over years of our guys internally repairing our equipment. And but the answer is that these are at the new, but all of them on our fixed asset systems are retained until they tell us they are eliminated from the campus, which is typically we have a much longer life due to good maintenance than the gap assigns to many of these vehicles. Yeah, so we do very well in that regard for us as people and Todd's people.
I'm glad to hear that, but what I was actually referring to were all the pickup trucks and a van that we're buying, not the golf cart.
Very true. Same concept though. We do an analysis of every single item that's on here as to whether there will be any write-down, and quite bluntly, the amount is the $10,000 range, if that, maybe $30,000 on the high end. We use our resources or our equipment well beyond the normal life.
Okay, but the cost to replace a pickup truck, say for landscaping, is that shown net of a trade-in?
No, it is not. It's the book value. It's the retail value. We, of course,
So
try to buy in.
What do we do with the trade? Then do we not trade in, or do we sell them off, or anything? Would that not be done?
No, we do not. We use them till they are practically falling apart in many instances. And actually, I don't know this for a fact. If it's a little new here, but just like anything, we're of course going to get the best value on the used sale as we can. But I actually have not seen that in my year here. We actually do more to keep using them until they literally can't be used any longer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee?
This is John Nicholas again.
I'm sorry, who?
This is John Nicholas.
Okay, John, go ahead.
Okay. On this thing, you have down the delayed capital items down right now at 1.7. I'm assuming that if the economy went sour and we needed more, we could actually drop some of these other items that are on our improvement list to our delay.
Absolutely.
Is that possible?
Carl could probably attest better to this. Is when we issue a PO, there are a whole lot of steps that go into this. We don't, on July 1st, bluntly just go out and start issuing POs. The best example of that we assess every single item before we issue the PO based on our either financial or the need still exists, is that of the $7.4 million we have in the current year, POs have been issued of about $5.5 million to date. We still have quite a few dollars that, we have designs on them, but when we hit something that concerning us either on the valuation of our funds, new needs that came up, or quite bluntly is the idea that was espoused 1 year ago still valid today. And of course we've talked about this many times. Once it will remain in approved status on our tracker until we actually expend it. So even in the current year, I've had probably $200,000 to $300,000 evaporate from the need as we've evaluated it and said it's just not worth the expenditure, or the need has gone away. So we just do not just issue POs. Carl can speak better to it.
And John, I'd like to add to that too. The CFO, Bill Schwind, and key staff are also always aware of my live schedule. So as the governing board approves a budget, I schedule the full year out with predictions, and this schedule currently is being based on approved items and potential delay items. And I can tell you that there's never a time where there's not enough time to cancel something. So if it was a larger ticket item in our weekly staff discussions, we would be talking about what I'm about ready to go out to bid for, and get basically a comparison to how we're doing financially versus how I'm scheduling future construction projects.
Any other questions from the committee?
Jim George, at your leisure.
Go ahead.
Couple questions. First off, I really would like to see this new construction and the dollars put out there include what's been carried over from last year, because I think saying 410 for the metal shop is not a realistic application. It should be 660 in total. I know what we're approving, but as B&F, we need to move forward with that. The other question that I would have for the other directors on the line, for Carl, and you can answer it when I'm through asking, is Mimo's gas line. What is it? What does it entail, and why are we doing it? And third, on here, you have Kuntz expansion fitness room equipment, $60,000. There's also 51 that was left over from last year. So are we spending $110,000 for new equipment into there, or are we using the 50 from last year, or are we adding the 60 in? Thank you.
George, I'd like to start off with the MIMOS question. So MIMOS currently is an electric appliance operated business. It is very taxing on our electrical system. In fact, we have no room to expand and we're experiencing issues. Also from a safety perspective, the elements of cooking and grease and stuff like that have caused some issues in the electrical based on the original layout of the building. It's not ideal layout with the way the kitchen is laid out. Converting to gas, appliances, first of all, purchased by MIMOS, allows us to get a better system, and it takes the strain off of our electrical grid. Any other question to that? Did I answer your question?
Carl, no, you didn't, in the sense is that if it's a strain on the electrical system, why are we not upgrading the electrical system? And or why are we bringing gas to the sports pavilion if it's only for MIMOS? If you're going to tell me it's going to be used for air conditioners and heating on the top of the building included in that, there's going to be other things included, I can understand that. But if we're bringing a gas line for MIMOS, just for MIMOS, I'm going to question that directly, because if it's a strain on the electric, I mean, that's a thing that APS should be able to bring out and do this. So that's my question on that. And that's for the other directors, because I've been asked questions on that. Thank you.
That's not a problem, George. I will say that we have no room for expansion in the current system, so any expansion that we require for an unknown, a need, whether we wanted to offset the draw that MIMOS currently utilizes, that would also be an expense. And quite honestly, I believe it would be an expense larger than the current proposed MIMOS gas project. So, but I do not have those official numbers.
Okay, next question. Are you going to answer it?
Yes, was it the fitness equipment? Yes, okay. First of all, George, this is a perfect world on this. I do want to clarify on the screen you have in front of us that my best attempt to do the encumbrance or the carryover was to put it into a bracket. There are three that carry that title on the screen in front of you. The metal shop, as we referenced, 250 was approved. The Marine and miniature golf fitting, and also the mention of the fitness. The question was posed for the fitness equipment. Here's what happened. We have in our reserve funds fitness equipment replacement, and that is on its normal 5-year, 6-year cycle. That's for existing equipment. So there were $58,000 that was put out there, and just like I was mentioning earlier, the timing of our PO, our purchase order of that, is sometimes designed to be in sync with the opening. So Carl's Kuntz project won't be completed till September. So $58,000 that we currently have will encumber over, and will make that existing equipment room or existing room fitted out with the normal cycle. Sadly, it's disappointing for all of us, but in the Kuntz expansion for fitness and the other rooms, I could find nothing that said there was a dollar amount put out there for fitness equipment. And so that's what this $60,000 is for, is to fit out that new space.
Did that answer your question, George? George?
Excuse me.
George?
Sorry. The mute button takes a minute to work. Pete, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that I know there was a part carried over from last year that we were encumbered for, and I wanted to make sure that we weren't adding to it as opposed to starting new and afresh. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, last chance, any commissioners, committee? Okay. Any questions from anyone on the phone? Katie, do you have any questions from outside?
Jim, the only question we had was about the dog park and why it hasn't reopened yet, and I can answer that from an operational perspective with the individual that emailed us. It's really not to do with today's BNF meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there's no more questions, I would propose we have a motion to proceed with the budget as the general manager has proposed it and moved it to the governing board.
Jim, one question
excuse me.
did come in. This
Just a
is
minute.
Katie.
Whoa, go ahead. Who is this?
This
Jim,
is Katie.
George.
One question did just pop up. They wanted to know why the price for the truck was so high at $4,000. $41,000.
Is somebody going to answer it?
Jim,
Yes,
Jim
I'll
George.
answer that, on behalf of Russ. And so Russ goes out to competitive bids for vehicles each and every year. The question is vague because our budget doesn't specify exactly what vehicle we're discussing. But as far as my understanding of pickup trucks, work trucks, maintenance vehicles, that doesn't seem out of line. So, and then to follow it up to with what point Pete Finelli had stated that our existing truck that it would replace, the replacement truck will get used until it can't be used any longer or moved to another department that might have a need.
Okay. Was there another question in there somebody asked?
Jim, George.
Go ahead, George.
Just be aware that we do not motion in our committee meetings. We ask for consensus.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. Then I'm going to ask for a consensus of what's the amount, Bill? Give me the new amount.
$5,991,271.
271. Then on a consent agenda, or I want a consent from everyone as we'll go around the room and ask for a comment that we move this forward to the governing board. Ann, go ahead, Ann.
Sorry, I didn't get unmuted. Yes, I agree to move forward.
George?
I agree to move it forward.
John H?
I agree.
John N?
I agree.
Lisa?
Agree.
Harry?
Agree.
Marshall?
Yes.
Unanimous. Okay, go to work and get the job done. We'll give it to the governing board and let them do it. Now, next thing I have on the agenda is, are there any comments from the committee? Last chance. Any comments from the committee?
Jim, I just want to thank staff and Pete and his office for the diligent work on this. This has been not an easy thing to try to project into the future and get an idea of where we're going to be a year from now. And I want to tell you, I think they've done an awesome job in doing everything they can to put in all contingencies. Thank you.
Any comments from the people on the audience? Hearing none, I will just make the final comment that we will probably, as I stated, have another meeting to go over the April financials. And I'm guessing it'll be 10 o'clock on the 26th, but you will get notice ahead of time. And if anyone, and we'll also update the Vanguard update at the same time. That will probably be the last meeting we have, but we'll determine that as things go. I was on the call yesterday with Bill and the staff when they proposed this to the budget to the general public, and I thought they did an awesome job. Is everybody happy with every little thing on there? Absolutely not. But I'll tell you what, They've moved forward and they've done a great job. Thank you very much. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. That's nice and short and sweet.